Hello, friends. Welcome to Life in Words, where every story helps you learn English and grow your heart. Today's story is truly special. It's not just about a man, it's about a message of peace, of kindness, of never giving up. Today we travel to the mountains of Tibet, where a young boy was chosen to lead a nation, not with weapons or war, but with wisdom and love. Yes, friends, today we learn English with the powerful life story of the Dalai Lama, a simple monk who became a symbol of hope for the whole world. So, find a quiet space, take a deep breath, and let your heart open, because this story will not only teach you English, it might just teach you how to live. In a quiet corner of the world, where white clouds float gently above snowy mountains, a baby was born. It was July 6th, 1935. The place was a tiny village called Taktser in the far northeast of Tibet. The baby's name? Lama Thondup. He was the son of simple farmers. His family had animals, fields, and a small home made of stone and earth. Life was not easy, but it was peaceful. No one in the village knew, not yet, that this little boy would one day become the 14th Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet. From a young age, Lama Thondup showed signs of something unusual. He was calm, he was curious, he asked big questions about life, the sky, the stars. He loved to sit still, to listen, to think. When the 13th Dalai Lama passed away, the monks began to search for his reincarnation, the child who carried the same soul. They traveled across mountains and valleys looking for signs. One day they arrived at Lama Thondup's home. They brought with them sacred items that had belonged to the 13th Dalai Lama and mixed them with other ordinary things. Little Lama looked at all the items. He smiled. And slowly, he picked up the exact things that once belonged to the previous Dalai Lama. Not once, not twice, but again and again. The monks were amazed, their eyes filled with tears. "This is the one," they whispered. "This child is the Dalai Lama." At just 2 years old, Lama was recognized as a living Buddha, the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet. His life changed overnight. He left his home, his parents, and his small village. He was taken to Lhasa, the holy capital of Tibet, where he would live in the grand and ancient Potala palace, a place as high and majestic as the mountains. But inside, it was not a palace of play. It was a school of discipline, of learning, of great responsibility. From morning to night, the young Dalai Lama studied. He learned Tibetan, Sanskrit, logic, Buddhist philosophy, art, and meditation. He was still a little boy, but he was trained to be a leader, a teacher, a light for his people. And while he studied, the world was changing. In 1950, when the Dalai Lama was just 15 years old, the age when most teenagers go to school or play sports, China invaded Tibet. The peaceful land of monks and temples was no longer safe. Imagine, friends, being 15 and told, "Now you must lead your country." That was the reality for the Dalai Lama. He tried to bring peace. He went to China. He met with Chinese leaders, including Chairman Mao Zedong. He hoped for harmony, for dialogue. But the situation grew worse. In 1959, there was a huge uprising in Tibet. Thousands of people stood up and demanded freedom. The Chinese government reacted with force. The Dalai Lama's life was in danger. And so one cold and silent night, dressed as a soldier, he escaped Tibet. He crossed the tall, frozen Himalayas, riding horses and walking in the dark. He was not alone. Thousands of Tibetans fled with him, risking their lives for freedom. Finally, he reached India, where he was welcomed with kindness and respect. In exile, the Dalai Lama built a new home in a small town called Dharamshala. There, he created the Tibetan government in exile, schools for refugee children, and monasteries to keep Tibetan culture alive. But here is what makes him truly special. He did not call for war. He did not shout with anger. He spoke of peace, forgiveness, and compassion. He told his people, "We will keep our identity not with violence, but with kindness, not with hate, but with hope." Over the years, the Dalai Lama became more than just a spiritual leader. He became a global icon of peace. He traveled the world, meeting people from every country and every religion. Presidents, kings, scientists, students, teachers, children. He met them all with the same gentle smile. And everywhere he went, he spoke the same simple truth. Kindness is my religion. Love is the key to happiness. Compassion is the way forward. He wrote books, gave speeches, taught people to meditate. But most of all, he listened. He listened to the pain of the world and answered with wisdom. In 1989, the Dalai Lama received the Nobel Peace Prize. The world honored him for his nonviolent fight for the freedom of Tibet and his efforts to bring peace between nations. But when he accepted the award, he said humbly, "I am just a simple Buddhist monk." He never saw himself as special. He wore no crown, he held no power. But his words had more strength than any army. Why? Because they came from the heart. Even today, in his 90s, the Dalai Lama wakes up early every morning. He meditates, studies ancient texts, sips buttered tea, and laughs with his friends. He still gives talks, he still teaches, he still tells jokes. Yes, jokes. He loves to laugh. He says, "If you can't smile, what's the point of being alive?" Children love him. Grown-ups admire him. World leaders respect him. And yet he remains gentle, humble, peaceful. The Dalai Lama teaches that real strength is not in power, but in patience. Not in control, but in compassion. He says, "You can't change the past, but you can shape the future with kindness." He believes that all people, rich or poor, religious or not, deserve peace, freedom, and happiness. And friends, that's why his story matters, because he shows us you don't have to be rich to be wise. You don't have to be strong to be brave. You don't have to have a title to make a difference. You just need a heart that cares. So, what can we learn from the Dalai Lama? We learn to listen more, to judge less, to forgive, not because others deserve it, but because we deserve peace. We learn that pain is part of life, but suffering is a choice. And we learn that love is not a weakness. Love is power. Dear friends, the Dalai Lama lost his country, but he never lost his purpose. He never lost his peace, and he never stopped smiling. Maybe that's the lesson. We cannot control the world, but we can control how we live in it. We can choose to be gentle, even when the world is harsh. We can choose to be kind, even when life is unfair. We can choose to be light, even in the darkest times. Thank you, friends, for listening to this powerful story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to Life in Words. We tell stories that help you learn English and touch your soul. Until next time, be kind, be brave, and keep learning.